there! My name is Alex, some know me as Fairything, and allegedly I'm what the kids call an artist. Yeah, I've been published a few places, I've released a few things, I do stuff in like the local scene and online, and well, obviously I do, I'm here. Today I'm going to be talking about a little something called musical poetry. It's basically how I combine two things I love very, very much. Because I love writing, and I love music, and I love being able to multitask. So musical poetry is that kind of thing. And obviously there's no one way to do it, and I'm not the only person who does do this, but this is kind of my process, because I've been doing this for a hot minute, I've done it at a few festivals, and it's something that I really enjoy. So I thought I would share kind of a crash course on how all of that works and how I put it all together. Okay, so let me start today off with a statement. I'm going to tell you something, and it's either going to make you a lot more excited to do this or a lot more concerned. I'm almost entirely self-taught. Like, that's basically my experience with music and writing, save for a few exceptions. Like, the only instrument I've ever had training in was flute, and like, I've trained in concert band and jazz band settings, but that's still just flute, you know? And we're not going to be playing with flutes today because I use a lot of chords when it comes to musical poetry, and flutes cannot play chords most of the time. Anyways, yes, you heard me. I taught myself how to sing, write songs, produce, and also learn a little bit of like ukulele and guitar, and all of this was kind of because I wanted to see if I could, and kind of because people told me that I couldn't. Spite can be a great motivator. It shouldn't be your only motivator, but it's great if you just need like a little pinch to really it can be a great catalyst. And I guess I also just really love music as an excellent tool of expression and connection, yada yada. Whatever the case, I can't stop now. I'm like thousands of dollars into this. I've spent so much money on instruments and like VSTs, and oh god, I can't stop. And I also write. Like I implied, that was also very self-taught. I learned from reading blogs as a kid and having no friends. And when I was in elementary school, I would practice writing by role-playing warrior cats on forums, because I had no friends. But like, I've gone places with that too. I write prose, poetry, plays, personal essays, articles, probably more, but I forget. And so, yeah, I take my music know-how and my writing know-how, and I make musical poetry. Am I the first person to do this kind of thing? Absolutely not. But am I the first person to do it with a Suzuki Q chord? I fucking better be. Okay, introductions aside, let's actually talk about musical poetry. This is just my process, so take it with a grain of salt, but here is how I make what I make. Step 1, you gotta write a poem. You have to write a poem to make musical poetry. I'm sorry, but like, if you got a feeling, write about it. It can be literally anything. I've written poems about, I have a list of topics here actually. Gender dysphoria, gender euphoria, flowers, relationship trauma, neurodivergency, mental illness, the sweater curse, the color purple, and more. Now, obviously, there's a bit more going on than a singular feeling or concept. If you ask me, poetry is about painting with words, and I personally use just like 3 broad categories of methods to do that. So here are those. The first one is figurative language. Yes, we're going back to like high school English with this, just bear with me. Similes, metaphors, you know them. And I'm sure that they can be intimidating at first. You're scared of sounding cliche, that's fine. The secret is to have fun. Like the noise-canceling headphones that I'm wearing as I record this. They're like an anchor. They keep me grounded when the world gets loud. Makeup that I wore on prom night, that was a prison. I was expected to doll myself up for prom, and when I wore it, I felt like I couldn't be myself. My cat, she's a motorcycle baby. She purrs super loud. And my feelings are a leaky faucet because they just keep dripping out of me, and I really should call someone about that. But like, see? You can just look around your room and find something to use. Or use yourself. Figurative language is infinite! Okay, so the second thing that I use a lot in poetry is imagery. I know that I compared poems to paintings a while back, but this kind of falls flat here because when it comes to poetry, sometimes you don't want people just seeing stuff in their brains. You want them to hear, or taste, or smell, or feel. And most of those you don't want with paint. Please do not eat paint. But like, you can also match this with figurative language. That leaky faucet feeling, what does that sound like? Is it a steady drip, drip, drip? Or does it only hit once in a while, hitting the porcelain so loud it echoes? Does it have a salty taste, like your tears? Yeah, see, there's a lot going on there. And like my noise-canceling headphones, I could go into the soft, protective leather on the speakers. Or heck, even my cat. She's loud, but she's also very soft and has these big golden eyes that really stand out on her black fur. You can really just give something in your room or your life a sensory painting, the full experience. Make it feel like the reader is really there. Okay, so this last category of like devices and techniques also doesn't really benefit from the paint metaphor. I'm beginning to wonder if that was a bad idea, but this one's a lot more about hearing. So, in a lot of poetry, you'll benefit from poetic devices that make words sound more musical when read or spoken out loud. And this doesn't actually begin or end with rhymes, there's more to it. For example, there is alliteration, which is when words start with the same sound or letter. See, I did it there. When words, same sound. Some words also hold assonants or similar vowel sounds. Vowel sounds also hold, that's assonants. And then there's consonants, which chalks up to words containing similar consonant sounds, which chalks being an example. And of course, there's onomatopoeia, which it's just using words that can also be sound effects. Bang, zip, the works. What's your favorite? Try using that. Okay, so we've talked about poetry. I'm not even gonna pretend that that was all of it. Like, this is absolutely not the formula to like make a perfect poem, but I really hope that that helped to like demystify the craft a little. Anyways, time for the next part, which is musicking your poem. Okay, so when I'm musicking my poetry, I often use my vintage synthesizers. Specifically, I own a Suzuki Q chord and Omnichord. That said, you do not need a vintage synth. I've seen people do this with pianos and guitars, and if you don't own a physical instrument, you can use a DAW too. I've done that. I'm actually a musician, and you should see my stuff on Fairything or It's Fairything everywhere. Thank you. And while I'm self-promoting, you should read my web novel. It's called Freak Spotters. It's free. It's about lesbians in a paranormal club who get more than they bargained for. What more do you need? Okay, enough self-promotion for now. We love music, right? Of course we do. And we know that music can often tell stories that mere words cannot. Or in a case like this, music can take words telling a story and add another layer to that story. There's this theory that I learned about in a poetry workshop called word economy. It's the idea of how much value every word has in a work. Like, imagine a novel or even a kid's book. You're generally not analyzing every single word to see how it fits in with the others in terms of rhythm, sound, poetic devices, and so on. Obviously these are important. Flow in prose is very important, but you're not kind of analyzing it in multiple dimensions the way that you would in poetry. In poetry, you do have to consider rhythm, sound, poetic devices, how the stanza looks, sounds, and feels, all that stuff. Every syllable matters, again, on multiple dimensions. And in poetry, a backing track can work like that if you are looking at musical poetry. You want a note or chord to make sense both for the line it's in and in sequence with the other chords. You know, like how actual music works. We're going to look at two of my previous poetic works alongside one of my musical works just for the sake of comparison. I'm gonna let them run and talk in captions for a hot minute, so that's your warning. Expect to have to read things. I'm sorry. Am I stars immobile, never to align? It feels like I grew up too fast, now I'm frozen in time. Metronome ticking too fast. I lost the beat somewhere in my prom dress after midnight. Slow dancing with a straight girl. We donned hotel chandeliers as our halos. I told myself I was pretty, but pretty doesn't mean me. The diagnosis was not like other girls, an affliction amongst women who don't fit into a coffin-shaped box. Truth is, the condition's a collage. Pieces became clear, an inclination to the arts, brain strangeness, pinch of lesbianism. Typical womanhood becomes a muddled memory, a floral sense in soprano sighs. I'm a message on a billboard that got painted over. I'm an unofficial constellation, a connection unorthodox. I'm badly traced, I'm cobbled together, I'm cheaply made, I'm out of tune. I'm a soup gone too sweet. That's fine by me. I was never meant to be eaten anyway. You might have a completely different formula for doing this if my method doesn't work with you. Like, there are just so many ways to pursue musical poetry, and that's what's really exciting about it. Anyways, if you had any questions about this video or just want to, support me, a queer disabled artist, then, like I said, I'm Fairything, or it's Fairything, on virtually all platforms. I have a web novel called Freak Spotters you can read. I have 2 EPs out, and I'm hoping to release both more writing and more music really soon, but all the support means all the world. So, yeah. And I really hope you enjoyed this video. Again, feel free to ask me, like, anything about music or writing. They're my big passions. I love them to bits. And also, thank you so much to Form for, like, letting me do this. I really do love this group. And, by supporting Form, you are supporting so many good causes, because it's just... these people have their hearts in the right place, okay? Anyways, thank you again, Form, for letting me do this, and thank you everyone for watching. Stay hydrated, be gay, I love you!